I want to get your thoughts, given the fact that you are on this advisory, what that has meant in terms of the suggestions you've made to President Trump and his team and how they've been received.
Well, I happen to follow this advisory, and I feel that it's not only President Trump, it's the entire government, the congressional leadership, the White House, that we want to advocate and have a voice. We are listening to a lot of our colleagues who are really suffering, are worried, and for us is to be able to pass a message, not for us, but for our industry, and not for our industry from, the top down, is from the bottom up, where we have to help everyone who have small businesses all across the country, and we really need help. I think they're planning to do the Phase 4 of the CARE Act release, and they have to start by taking care of the small businesses first before they will take care of the food chain and all that.
Yeah, and in terms of the Payroll Protection Program, the PPP, it's been getting a lot of attention in part because there have been some national brands that have been able to acquire loans, at least in that first tranche of $350 billion, including Shake Shack, which was on our network last hour, talking about the fact that they're going to give that loan back. Were you able to apply for some of the government assistance?
Yes, absolutely. Of those $350 billion, only 9.3% went to the food service industry, which, I don't know, it's maybe a little bit more than $20 billion. And I think that's my question. That's my answer. Is that they started from the top down, and it stopped somewhere, and they have to do the next CARE Act from the bottom up, where they take care first of the small businesses, and then they. I don't think that was enough money for sure to cover everybody, and I don't think it was also fair to have this disparity. I think a lot of smaller banks were not organized. I spoke to many friends around the country, and them banks were not organized and fast enough to have the presentation or the support ready. And I think the bottom line is that the small places suffer out of that. And I don't know what the answer. One thing also with the PPP is that the deadline of June 30 don't work at all for anyone in the restaurant industry. And so one of the advocating we did with the White House and with the Congress, we sent to all the leader of the Congress and the Speaker of the House, is an extension of the loan forgiveness to at least September 30, so business can reopen. And if we're going to get PPP, either for the one who didn't get it yet but will get it, or for the one who has got it, then they got to extend that PPP forgiveness loan.
Danielle, I also wonder, even if all of that gets done, does the U.S. restaurant business model just have to change? I mean, high rent locations that are in some places like New York, based on packing as many people as possible into a closed space, which was fine in the past. But you have to wonder at what point, even with restrictions being lifted, people are going to feel really comfortable sitting that close to someone else. Does the model itself have to change?
For example, I think so. For example, restaurant Daniel, let's say it's a fine dining restaurant, and tables are spaced apart, but they're not going to be spaced apart enough, or even Café Bouluds, my restaurant. I am planning to take my private room dining and place some table there and do a very homey, simple, local, neighborhood kind of meal where people will have, for a fraction of the cost of a meal at Daniel, they can have a wonderful meal done by us, because we're not going to have any private dining. We're not going to have any private entertainment anywhere for the next 3 months, I will say. And so any restaurant who has a private room, if they're going to take half of their table in their living room, in their dining room, they may be able to put them in a private room and offer something maybe at a real, like almost like a homey meal, family meal kind of, where if at Daniel it was costing more than $200 to eat, and now I'm offering something for you for $50 to dine at Daniel. It's not going to be the same service. It's not going to be the same expectation, the same. But at least I feel I am saving my staff, and I am helping people, and I think that's one solution. Also, of course, we know that restaurants will have to scaled down their seating capacity. Entertainment with business. That's one thing. We also work with the president when he asks us questions. We say, there used to be this business deduction, and business deduction is not only for big restaurants. It's also for small restaurants. It's for anywhere in the country that company can have the advantage of this of taking deduction of their expenses in restaurants. And I think that was an important thing. It's going to help. But through the summer, I don't know if it's going to help. And I think we're going to try to progressively reopen. Our goal is, of course, to reopen every one of our restaurants and rehire all our staff. But that, I think everybody is facing the same challenge and worry. And I think if the big company will run this country from Amazon to anything, I think all the big companies have to help the small business this time. They kill them. I'm not talking about restaurants only, but let's say retail and all that. But now, I think they have to locally also maybe help those small businesses. I don't know how, but there's maybe ways to be able to bounce back to those little local businesses to help them pass through and get to the fall,
Yeah, let's hope they have a sense of responsibility, even though, they have a fiduciary responsibility to grow. Danielle, one last thing. You see restaurant activity all over the world. So we're talking about the White House response here on small business, but is there a government who's doing it better or best?
I'm talking to the French, and I think the French government has different social settings who have already brought different support to individuals. For example, for my employee, we created a foundation to try to support them in their hardship and need right now. And we have done very well thanks to the generosity of many of our customers, our friends, and our business partners. But we kind of took the initiative to support our staff because I think that was very, very important. I don't know. It's difficult if there is any. It's all about their social structure as well. I think it's very different. This week, for example, in order to start to occupy my staff for good cause, I'm reopening my kitchen in New York. Reopening the kitchen to work with World Central Kitchen and the airport of Jose Andres. Yeah. It's very important. And also City Meal on Wheels, which I am the co-president in New York City, and we really need support there as well.